This has been happening over time where she's giving hint after hint after hint, and he's just not listening. So she's now taking it out on him. She's become the alpha in the situation where she said, look, I can get attention if I do this, if I demand these things, if I say it's about taking out the trash or whatever. That's not really what it is. She's just looking for attention there, and she's taking control of the relationship. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I'm your host, Doug Holt, with the founder of The Powerful Man, Tim Matthews.
You purposely just didn't want to say it then, did you? Look at you, giggling back and forth like a little schoolgirl.
So, Tim, what's the topic for today?
Oh, there we go. Just overlook it. Move on. Smart move. So this is sparked by a conversation I just had about half an hour ago with a businessman. This guy is super successful, works on the stock exchange, and he is really found himself in a position which is typical of a lot of men, and in particular businessmen, that he's been focusing on his career for the past 10 years, and he's lost himself in it. And he's wound up in a position whereby he's also lost the connection with his wife and his son. And he was speaking to me because he wants to learn how the activation method can help him to reconnect and reignite his relationship and better balance his business and his personal life as well, so he can be able to continue to grow there without getting a divorce, quite frankly. And what he was telling me is he's found himself in a position now where his wife keeps complaining at him to do the dishes or take out the trash or whatever it is. And he's doing these things, and no matter what he does, there's always something else that she is complaining at about him. There's always another way in which he has let her down, or there's something he's not done or whatever. And he feels frustrated, understandably, because he doesn't know what's going on. He thinks that he's doing all of the things that she's wanting him to do. And I said to him, have you ever thought, well, the way in which I came about this was really sharing with him a story from one of the guys in the Brotherhood who experienced something similar. And what he came to realize through the course of the program, that all of these different requests from his wife were really cries for connection. She wanted to connect with him, and she resented how much he worked, and his business took him away from her and the family. And he was getting to live his dream, and she was basically at home looking after the kids, and able to live her dream. And every time she would throw these different situations up in his face, really what she was saying is, she wasn't saying do the dishes or take out the trash. She was saying, I want you to be home earlier. I want you to take a day off and spend it with me. I want you to be able to have a conversation with me without checking your phone. And I just wanted to get your take on this, Doug, and your experience, because I know you and Erin have been through a lot of work to have the amazing marriage that you guys now have and able to enjoy. And you guys navigate situations like this so well, so that even when these do arise, because you're human, that they arise for all of us, but when they do arise for you guys, you're able to move through them really quickly. So in your experience, what's really going on for guys in this position?
Well, there's two different parts there, because my wife and I have a commitment to declare something when it happens, right? And have that radical honesty. It doesn't always happen, but we don't have to worry about the passive aggressiveness, because that's what's really going on here. The wife is being passive aggressive. She's trying to give him hints on what she wants, but he's not getting the message. It's we've talked about this before. It's a communication of love languages. This happens a lot. And we see this with the men, where they're actually one person saying, hey, like my love language, Tim, is acts of service, and my wife's is quality time. So what I might do is, to show my wife that I care for her, I might come home and, hang we just moved to a new place, hang this art that we have, and, fix something on our car for her and do all these other things. And although my wife thinks that's good and all, she would have rathered me just spend time with her, and vice versa, right? So my wife wants to show me that she appreciates me as her husband, business I do. she wants to sit down, go for a walk, or sit down on the couch and just hang out. Where I'm like, hey, if you really appreciate all the work I'm doing, you could help me out by doing these things. So we're not speaking the same language there. And so for a guy like this has been happening over time where she's giving hint after hint after hint, and he's just not listening. So she's now taking it out on him, right? She's become the alpha in the situation where she said, look, I can get attention if I do this, if I demand these things, if I say it's about taking out the trash or whatever. That's not really what it is. She's just looking for attention there, and she's taking control of the relationship.
Okay. And how would you approach this situation with this guy? Because I'm thinking about reflecting on the conversation we had, and it seems to me, and I don't know this to be true, but it seems to me like his wife doesn't know that's what she's doing.
Yeah, she probably doesn't. So, and that's fair. And so what I would do is sit her down and have a conversation with her, an adult-to-adult conversation. And it starts with, we've talked about effective communication. We teach the guys this. It starts with clearing the air with no blame. Hey, when this happens, this is the way, this is what happens to me. So for example, let's just say she gets mad at him for, not taking out the trash. Was that one of the things you mentioned?
Yep.
Perfect. Well, if he didn't take out the trash, that's one thing. He can just do it if they agree to it. But he could sit her down and say, look, Tim, you're going to be my wife in this situation. I really married poorly in this scenario. But look, Tim, when you got upset about me not taking the trash out, I got really angry inside. What happened to me is my shoulders got really tense, and I just wanted to scream and yell back at you. But really, what happened, it triggered within inside of me when I started thinking about it, a feeling of being afraid. I was afraid that you didn't think I was man enough to be in this relationship with you, which is so important. And then I got really scared that you're going to leave me, right? And so I really want to know, what is it you really want? Because this relationship's really important to me. And so what I've done there, Tim, in that example, is I haven't blamed her. And that's what most of us guys do. I certainly did. Oh, Doug, you haven't taken out the trash. Well, you didn't do the dishes, or I'm working so hard. We come back with this defensive mechanism, but instead of just owning our own self, right? The reason we get mad or triggered is it triggers something inside of us. That's why it's called a trigger, right? It triggers something internally, right? So when his wife gets upset at him, when he gets upset or triggered, what's the real reason? What is he making that mean? And he gets to come clean and have an authentic conversation with his wife. And that opens the door to a much bigger, broader conversation where now he can figure out, what is it his wife really likes? What is it she really wants? Because it's probably nothing to do with the trash, as you said, right? But she's not getting her needs met. Right? It's that kind of classic idea. Why did she leave me? I gave her everything she wanted. Oh, except for the one thing she needed.
Yeah, so true. Reminds me of something another guy said to me yesterday. I speak to a lot of guys in a very similar position, which is great because we can really help them. And he said to me how, again, similar story, lost himself in his business. His wife then left him. They're now living apart. And he was able to reconnect with her over the weekend. And she said something to him that really hit home for him. He thought it was all about the business. So he had grown to resent the business because he felt like it was coming at the cost of his relationship, obviously. And she said, look, it has nothing to do with the business because you were like this before you even started the business. We had everything, but you felt like we had nothing. And you went out there to try and give us everything, and in the process, gave us nothing. You took away the one thing we had, which was obviously connection and, the love between them and the kids. And, it goes hand in hand with what you're saying there, right? So how would you suggest that a couple that maybe, in a similar position to the guys I've just mentioned, how do you suggest that they go about being able to establish what one another's needs in the relationship are?
Hey, sorry to interrupt the show, but I wanted to ask you a question. Do you ever feel like something's just missing? Like there's something more out there and you just can't put your finger on it? I totally get it. Go over right now to thepowerfulman.com/freedom to discover the system that other businessmen just like you are using. We've included 10 case studies, 10 men just like you who have found the solution and have found their way on their path. And we want to share that with you. Go over to thepowerfulman.com/freedom right away. Now let's get back to the show.
So first you got to clean it up, right? That's what we talked about earlier. The second thing is a really easy way to do it is go through the 5 love languages. That's a really good starting place. There's an app you can get on your smartphone. The book is called The 5 Love Languages. You can't really miss it. But understand what your partner's love language is, because you may be actually just speaking a different language. So I use my wife and myself as an example here. If I'm constantly doing things for my wife to show love to her, but she doesn't receive it that way, right? I feel like I'm being rejected, and vice versa. If my wife, wants to do something and she's showing me love by, wanting to sit on the couch with me, and I'm thinking, geez, why we should be doing so many things right now. And so she's going to feel rejected by me if we don't know that each other's love languages, right? So now fast forward to actually getting that clarity, which is what I'm going to recommend the guys do. When my wife sits down with me on the couch and wants just to hang out, I'm like, she's showing love, right? She's being affectionate. Like this is going to go somewhere, and vice versa. When I'm doing things for her, she goes, oh, this is Doug's love language. He's, attempting to show me love. So getting to know that really can clear up a lot of arguments and disagreements, because what happens to us guys, right? Whenever our wife says, wow, that movie was good. If we took them to the movie, internally we're like, yep, I did that. That was me. We almost act like we were the director, the filmer, the actor, everything. Or we go to a restaurant. She's like, wow, that was great food. We just smile ear to ear because we took her to that restaurant. Right. So we take full ownership of the way our spouse feels and the way she relates to things. Consequently, if the restaurant was really bad or the food was really bad, we feel rejected, right? We feel like it was our fault. It's just the way we're wired. And so this love languages and the way things we're communicating can be exactly the same way. So I would start with that, Tim, and then you can move on to a lot more advanced ways of going through. And that starts talking about upsets and clearing up upsets. And you want to use that same formula I just told you, where I role play like you were my wife. It's the same idea where you talk about your upset, but you talk about your upset from how you are, from your side, without blaming the other.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the reasons, with why, with the tools that we give the men in the activation method within the Try to Connection, one of them is all around having a check-in, whether they do an evening check-in or, a weekly check-in, and simply asking your wife, how is the relationship for you right now? What have been your wins this week? What could I improve upon this week? Has anything come up for you this week? And just to give, or today rather, whichever you want to do, daily or weekly, and just to create some space for you both, that one is safe and two, that is allocated to clearing the air, so things don't go unsaid and unfelt for too long. And you're actually able to get them out in the open and, express each other's point of view as well and be heard without anyone feeling attacked or feeling judged, and, actually come up with a plan moving forwards to make sure that doesn't happen again, or to minimize it happening again. And for me personally, Amelia and I, that has been a tool that has been really helpful. I mean, granted, we don't use it as much these days because we're just in a routine with our relationship that's working really well. But in order to get it to this point, one of the tools that we did use a few years ago was this exact thing: an evening breakdown, to check in at the end of the day. How how was it today for you? Did anything come up? And, the scenario that I just mentioned. And it really helped. It really helped. That, especially combined with the love language as well. And, being able to see, it's kind of like a cheat code of love language, isn't it? Because you're able to actually see what is going on in the relationship rather than thinking that, she, like for Amelia, for example, my love language is words of affirmation and physical touch. They're the top two. Hers is quality time. And now it's acts of service as well. And that's just so low on my list. Both of those are low on my list. So if Amelia is not, well, what I used to think is if she's not, touching me or hugging me or saying nice things to me, that she doesn't want me. She doesn't want to be with me, which would then make me defensive and also put me in a position of reaction as well. It's almost like I wound up in this position of wanting to get the first blow in because I was afraid that she didn't love me anymore or she was, not showing me love, and, it was creating a divide. So being able to understand that, just like you were saying with Erin, that her love language is quality time and acts of service, which actually, Doug, changed. We redid the test a few weeks ago, and acts of service didn't used to be one for Amelia. And now it is. So now when I see that she's, I come home and the bin bags are by the door, instead of walking past them thinking that's just a job that she hasn't finished, I'll make sure that I go and put them in the bin. So yeah, it's a very powerful tool.
Absolutely. So I think the important thing here is for these guys that you're talking to, Tim, is first self-realization, right? To realize what's going on with themselves. Then again, we talked about in a previous episode, is coming clean, but coming clean without blaming. And once you've done that, then you can have what I call an adult conversation between two people, right? You may not even be passionate lovers at that point, right? You may have been so separated, but what you can do is really start looking at, what does it mean? Like you talk about Amelia. Now you know acts of service, and if you want to show her love, you know how you can do that. And sometimes, it takes work, right? If it's not your natural way, hopefully you're lucky enough, you're listening to this and you're going, geez, I've never had that problem. It's probably because you've actually attracted someone who speaks the same love language as you, and that happens. But if you haven't, and you're like Tim or I, then you need to work at it a little bit and be conscious of that and be conscious of showing love. And you can do that. You could do it as setting alarms on your phone is something we have guys do. Just a reminder, it's a check-in, is how can I show love at this moment, right? What is it I could do? There's a lot of simple things you need to do, but you get to reset your frame, right? You get to reset the frame of the lens you look at. Because the truth is, guys, what you're doing now is not working. Let's be real. It's not working. So it's time for a change. And if you're like me and, you like me, we like radical change, right? Let's make some massive action. Let's do some radical change. If I find I'm going the opposite way on a street to get to the destination, Tim, that I'm supposed to be going to, if I'm going to a restaurant, I'm going the opposite way, I turn around immediately. I don't keep driving down the street for hours on end, hoping that somehow I'm going to turn around eventually and get the right sign to turn around. No. If you find out you're going the wrong way to a restaurant or to a business meeting, you turn around absolutely as fast as you can, right? Why don't you do this in your relationship as well? This is your chance, gentlemen. Course correct and take massive action.
So true. So there you've had it from the master himself, married to the love of his life, Mr. Tim Matthews. So guys, I get it. Sometimes it can be daunting to make changes like, we're talking about here. It can quite feel overwhelming at times as well. I know for me, I used to feel that a lot. Where do I start? There's so much that's happening right now. There's so many fires that I'm running from one to another, trying to put them all out. Where do I even start? It might be a good idea for you to head over to thealphareset.com and check out there, where we help men solve problems exactly like this, so they can better balance their business and their relationship and reconnect with the wife and reignite that flame as well that was once there, but started to dwindle somewhat. So, if you do go there and you like what you see, who knows? Maybe you'll even be speaking with me. Oof, bring it on. I'd love to have a conversation with you. So, guys, until next time, thank you for taking time out of your busy day, your busy lives to be here with us. Have a terrific day. We'll see you on the next episode.